Tonight on The Wrap, 2 police officers killed in a deadly crash in Middlesbrough. The pair, named as PC Matthew Blades and PC Tom Clough, were hit by a car travelling the wrong way down the A66. 5 people in that vehicle have also died.
These were brave officers, protecting our communities and serving our residents who didn't return home to their families at the end of their shift.
Security camera footage appears to show a police chase on a residential street near the A66 minutes before the fatal crash. We'll have the latest. Also ahead, under pressure, FIFA boss Gianni Infantino is told to stay away from a youth tournament amid anger over his scrapped World Cup sell-off plan.
Have you betrayed the game of football? Have you betrayed the game of football, sir?
You have a nice haircut.
Trade war between Canada and the US deepens as Mark Carney says he will impose reciprocal tariffs on American goods. Plus, how the threat from wildfires in the UK is escalating dramatically. In the sport, back with a bang. Hull City beat Manchester United 2-0 on their return to the Premier League. We'll discuss the day's biggest stories with political correspondent for HuffPost, Kate Nicholson, and broadcaster and commentator Duncan Barkes. Plus, the first look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers in half an hour's time. Good evening. They were brave officers protecting our communities who didn't return home to their families. Those the words of the Chief Constable of Cleveland Police as she paid tribute to 2 of her officers killed in a crash in Middlesbrough. PC Matthew Blades and PC Tom Clough died when they were hit head-on by a car travelling the wrong way down the A66 in the early hours of this morning. 5 people in that vehicle also died. Well, let's cross now to Middlesbrough and our national correspondent, Tom Parmenter. And Tom, what more can you tell us this evening?
Yes, 7 lives lost in this appalling collision and 7 families left heartbroken. Cleveland Police today paid tribute to their 2 officers who died, who were in a marked armed response vehicle on this dual carriageway, which is still closed tonight as investigations continue. They've paid tribute to these brave officers who will not be returning home to their families. And it happened, this collision, a short time after a police pursuit through the streets of Middlesbrough, as our North of England correspondent Katie Barnfield reports.
They went to work and never came home. In the early hours of the morning, 2 police officers were killed on duty after a Volkswagen Passat smashed into them while driving the wrong way down the A66. The impact so intense, all 5 people inside the Passat also lost their lives. The 2 officers who died here have now been named as PC Matthew Blades and PC Tom Clough, who were both in their 30s. Cleveland Police have told us they were driving a marked armed response car at the time of the crash, but that they weren't involved in chasing the Passat that hit them. That had been chased by other officers who'd marked it as suspicious, but we understand the chase was abandoned after it turned the wrong way down the A66. It was then it hit PC Blades and PC Clough. In the minutes just before the crash, a car was captured on CCTV on a street nearby, speeding down the road, pursued by police cars with blue lights flashing, just minutes before the crash. In an emotional statement outside the headquarters of Cleveland Police, Chief Constable Victoria Fuller said they were supporting the families of the officers who died.
These were brave officers, protecting our communities and serving our residents who didn't return home to their families at the end of their shift. My thoughts and the thoughts of everybody here at Cleveland Police are with their families, friends, colleagues and loved ones at this incredibly difficult time.
The crash happened around 3:39 in the morning in South Bank near Middlesbrough. North East Ambulance Service sent multiple crews, including an air ambulance doctor. but weren't able
along
to
with
save
the 5
any of the 7
occupants
people
of the
involved.
Passat as a result of the collision.
Who said he was devastated to hear of their deaths and the deaths of those inside the car that hit them, adding, "My thoughts are with the families and loved ones of everyone involved, and with everyone at Cleveland Police." The police watchdog, the IOPC, is now investigating the crash, while Cleveland Police continue their investigations after losing 2 of their own. Katie Barnfield, Sky News, South Bank.
I think anyone who heard or listened to the Chief Constable today could tell how difficult this has been for her force. Officers here tonight still guarding this dual carriageway which remains closed, officers investigating, trying to piece together precisely what happened in this horrific crash, and officers also working to break the news to those families affected with their loved ones. The 5 people who were in that Volkswagen Passat have not been officially identified, and we know that the police have said that they will fully cooperate with that independent investigation, which automatically happens in situations like this. They will be looking at those split-second decisions that would have been taken in that police pursuit, what was being said on the radio. Officers, of course, do train for those kind of scenarios, but they are very dynamic, very fast-moving, often involving very difficult decisions. And that investigation will take some time, and it may provide some of the answers to this, but it is unlikely to provide much comfort to everyone impacted by this horrendous crash in the early hours of Saturday morning.
Indeed, Tom, thank you very much for that and all your reporting there. And as Tom was saying, the Chief Constable there, Victoria Fuller, highly emotional. You could clearly see she was distressed making the announcement. 7 people have lost their lives, but they have been keen to suggest that people shouldn't speculate as to what has happened.
No, I mean, now is the time to mourn the loss of these 7 lives. And the thing that really struck me about the Chief of Cleveland Police, obviously we saw and heard the emotion in her address there. But there was an interview earlier today on Sky, and people were just talking about, particularly these 2 police officers, both in their 30s, went to work to do a normal shift, and they're not coming home. And when you hear it said like that, it really hits you in the heart, doesn't it?
Yeah, and 7 lives lost, as we know, but there will be an IOPC investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has just been a horrifying event and something that, we kind of see in fiction, but you never expect to really cross over into real life. In terms of this investigation, that just shows that the police really need to be left alone to do their own work. It's obviously gut-wrenching news to see, but we really need to not speculate, not think about exactly why that this horrible situation ended up happening, and leave the police to really dive deep into their investigation.
Yeah, flags being flown at half-mast at Cleveland Police headquarters this evening. Now, Sky News has learned that FIFA boss Gianni Infantino has been asked not to attend a youth tournament in the Dominican Republic this weekend in a sign of deepening divisions caused by his attempted World Cup sell-off plans. More on that in a moment, but first, Sky News tracked down Mr Infantino in the Caribbean, where he came face-to-face with our US correspondent, James Matthews. Take a look.
Mr Infantino, why won't you resign?
Thank you so much.
Why won't you resign?
Thank you so much.
We tracked him down to the Caribbean. Gianni Infantino came here to the Dominican Republic. This was a business trip, the business of saving his skin. Football people in this part of the world, FIFA associations, want him out as their president. The sentiment is shared beyond these shores, in Europe and Asia. It follows his effort to sell off part of the World Cup to private investors. Infantino is now engaged in shuttle diplomacy to seek support for a 4th term as FIFA president. Concealed behind the trees of a VIP airport, he arrived by private jet from Doha in Qatar. For weeks, Infantino has dodged the media and questions on the football crisis he created. They are questions we wanted to ask. When we found him, we did. James Matthews from Sky News.
Thank you.
Have you betrayed the game of football? Have you betrayed the game of football,
sir?
sir?
You have a nice haircut.
Why won't you resign?
Thank you so much.
Why won't you resign?
Thank you so much.
Fans, FIFA associations want you to step down. Why won't you?
Sorry.
Have you betrayed the trust of FIFA, sir?
See you at the hairdresser. Sorry, sir.
See you at the hairdresser, he said. He likes a baldy gag. His difficulty is the bare-faced cheek. That's the view of supporters groups worldwide, now adding a petition to calls for his resignation. They say he's made a mockery of football and has lost the right to lead it. This is a Caribbean fixture in a political game. On its outcome rests the future direction of the game itself. James Matthews, Sky News, in the Dominican Republic.
Well, as mentioned, the FIFA president has been asked not to attend a youth tournament in the Dominican Republic this weekend, with Gianni Infantino told by the region's football leadership that his presence would undermine the children's matches. In a letter from the president of the Confederation that represents North America, Central America and the Caribbean, Infantino was told, "I respectfully ask you in the name of football to reconsider your attendance, as it will unfortunately undermine the technical nature of this important youth development activity." Well, let's bring in our guest, Duncan and Kate, once again. Certainly hasn't heeded that letter because he still flew into the Dominican Republic and, as we saw, met our correspondent there, James Matthews, and instead of answering the question as to whether he'd betrayed the trust of FIFA, was more interested in talking about their hairstyles.
Yeah, he's a bit of a joke, really, isn't he? So Infantino, I think his days are numbered. I think it's only a matter of time before a lot of powerful people just say, look, mate, do you know what? You are becoming an embarrassment. Read the room. And if he doesn't resign voluntarily, people will make moves to see him gone. I mean, this is a guy who tried to flog off the World Cup with secret plans. It was a 20% of the World Cup he wanted to effectively sell to an equity company. You know, football's not for sale. He's made a mistake. And actually, if he was a better communicator and a better judge of the mood of the world, he would have responded to the Sky reporter and actually given some lines and said, look, I regret what I did, or was misunderstood or whatever. But instead, he completely stonewalled it, he ignored it, and actually it just makes him look pretty appalling, I think.
Kate, do you think he can survive? Can he win a fourth term?
Oh, I can't imagine so. I mean, as someone who doesn't really follow football, I've known about his name for months because of the way that he has carried himself, the way that he has overshadowed the whole of the World Cup. I mean, his very presence, just the fact that itself is a story, the fact that he's not being invited to certain football events. You can't have someone at the head of FIFA not attending certain youth events. I mean, that just seems impossible. As your correspondent was asking him, why aren't you resigning? That's a question we all have. I mean, this man has dominated the summer with his very strange ideas of what football and leading a neutral football governing body should be like.
How is he able to withstand the dissent? We've seen resignations, we've seen petitions against him. How is he able to withstand all of it?
I think we have, sadly, a modern-day trend now where we're quite powerful, and it does tend to be men, make mistakes. They're not reading the room. They're sufficiently arrogant enough to think they can get away with it if they stonewall it. And they just literally put their fingers in their ears and it's like, la, 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 I'm not listening. And, you know, I'm old enough to remember a time when people made a mistake, or in this particular case, one might say got caught out. They did the honourable thing and said, you know what, I'm off. But that kind of honour doesn't exist anymore. And I think we have certain characters in politics and in sport right around the world who behave in this way because they genuinely think they can get away with it.
Just want to read you what Victor Montagliani, the president of CONCACAF, has said. He's also a FIFA vice president, so could be the new president by next March. But he said, I respectfully ask you, in the name of football, to reconsider your attendance, as it will unfortunately undermine the technical nature of this important youth development activity. I mean, you know, almost begging him not to attend because, I mean, he's bigger than the football.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I honestly think that since he's sort of made himself more of a political figure, aligning with Donald Trump, even thinking about selling off parts of the game, he has become so divisive. He is absolutely not what the he's not fulfilled what he was supposed to do for the job, let's be honest. And the fact that people now are uninviting him to things is shameful.
And I think we'll see more and more of this. I think there'll be other events that he's scheduled to go to, and I think various people will say, we don't want you here, and that'll be the pressure that will start the process of him actually eventually understanding that he can no longer remain as president.
Do you think the fact that he's obviously and publicly allied himself to Donald Trump, do you think that's one of the reasons why he's been able to survive thus far?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's bent over backwards to appeal to Trump, and that really worked out for him in terms of getting what he wanted through the World Cup. But I think that was a really short-term strategy. Donald Trump is not a good ally to have in the long run. I mean, look at the mess he made when he tried to cancel a red card, and there was massive fallout about that across the summer. So I think possibly that did extend his time in the post, but whether or not that will help him further down the line is a big question.
Do you think Trump is going to be his saviour in this situation?
No, not at all. I think the US president is possibly a fair weather friend, and I think once someone has been of use to him, he may well find Infantino that he's dropped quite quickly.
Yeah, elections are next March.
Yeah.
We shall see. I wonder what the odds would be for him getting a fourth term. Let us continue to talk about Donald Trump, actually, because the trade war between Canada and the US deepened today, with Mark Carney saying he will match new US tariffs dollar for dollar after talks broke down between the two sides. It comes after a senior US official confirmed 50% tariffs on $20 billion worth of Canadian products is going ahead. Mark Carney described that move as a miscalculation.
We recognized from the start that America has changed. Early last year in this room, I observed that the decades-long process of steadily increasing integration between our economies was over. Our government understood before many that America would transform all of its commercial relationships, that it would put a series of tariffs on its closest allies and use economic integration as a weapon.
Mark Carney there, he seemingly is up for the fight, isn't he?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there'll be people around the world who will be saying that Mark Carney is right to stand up to Donald Trump. Listen, you know, I'm not a fan of tariffs. I'm an old-school free trade warrior. All tariffs do is make things expensive for all of us, right? Because they get passed on to the customer and the consumer. So tariffs don't work. We know that Donald Trump uses tariffs as a form of economic warfare, basically. And it's a different form of warfare. It's not missiles or bullets. It's putting taxes on imports, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, one of the things that Canada ship into the USA is hockey sticks, for example. You know, so the tariffs are going to go up. It doesn't really work for anyone. There is something quite interesting. A long time ago, I read The Art of the Deal, which was the book that Donald Trump wrote in the 1980s. There's a view that it was shadow written by someone else. And, you know, my memories of that are quite clear. And he talks about, you know, playing around and the fancy footwork you do if you want to get your deal done or whatever. And there is a bit of there's an interesting bit of psychology in it, because Donald Trump does tend to like people who do stand up to him, because there's something in his brain that goes, well, actually, you know, he's a bit of a hard man, and he respects that in the world of deals and business deal making, et cetera, et cetera. So this could be quite a clever move on behalf of Carney. But of course, you know, we are dealing, and I've said this before on Sky News, with a very unpredictable president of the USA. And, you know, Carney could wake up tomorrow morning and Trump would have been all over Truth Social and he might have changed his mind. So, you know, anything could happen.
Yes, as we know very, very well. Carney's saying that the tax on imports will only hit about 5% of goods, though, that are imported annually. Yeah, I think Carney's he's made the right choice here, because he was elected on a so-called elbows up stance. So that's a Canadian term of, you know, really going out there and really looking for a fight. And he is he's making an assessment here saying, I'm going to do something that stands up to Trump but doesn't have a huge impact on the Canadians right now. People in Canada have already been struggling with the consequences of this sort of shadow trade war that they've had with the US while they've been trying to come to terms with a deal. Now, they are aware that things might get a little bit worse, but they're up for the fight. Lots of Canadians are supportive of Carney in this, and lots of people have already stopped going to the US. They've stopped sort of seeing them as the trade allies that they once were. So I think his assessment here is bang on. Yeah, they really are up for the fight, and retaliation is key, isn't it? Because not so long ago, Canadians were boycotting American goods, and on the shelves in supermarkets there was a special cross on anything coming from America.
They're up for the scrap, and understandably so. I mean, what I think is really interesting about this is it's shown that the last few years of Donald Trump in the White House, the world that we used to know has completely changed. You know, we've talked about in the past when Keir Starmer was Prime Minister and how the UK-US special relationship kind of might have been a bit damaged. You know, you've got the USA and Canada, who in the past have had this great relationship geographically because of where they are. All of that's changed.
Yeah, and we heard Donald Trump also not so long ago talking about the 51st state, didn't we? So it does go further back. Let's have a listen to what he had to say at that time.
I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, you know, as a real estate developer, you know, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person. But when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, you know,
OK, on that clip, you can see Mark Carney there shooting daggers at President Trump, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, you listen to that, Trump was deliberately trying to aggravate him. I mean, surely he came into office not actually thinking that he was going to take over Canada. He was saying these things to really push Carney's buttons. And, you know, it's worked. But as you said before, Trump does respect people who stand up to him. Yeah. We've seen that with, like, Mamdani in New York. I mean, I think, for me, as a British citizen, I'm looking now to whether Andy Burnham will take Carney's lead and think, oh, well, maybe this is a good approach. You know, if this works out well, wins me some support with the British public, then maybe I too will start standing up to Trump.
Yeah, that's yet to be seen how that relationship progresses. But Carney's saying that in these trade talks that broke down on Friday, that basically the US was asking for too much and offering too little.
It's not within anyone's interest for this trade war to continue, you know. So I think whilst they're saying that the talks have broken down, I think in a couple of weeks' time they will start again in some form, and some kind of deal, some kind of arrangement will be reached, because ultimately, as it stands, you know, there still is that little bit of history of the US, the Canadian relationship, and it's not within either's interests for this to continue. The way forward, though, for Carney is to find a way of Trump still saving face with this, because we know that, you know, as with all politicians, but particularly with the current US president, the ego is quite big. Some might say as big as Canada. So, you know, if they're going to sort of like change and find a different way of working together, it's got to be a way in which Donald Trump can save a little bit of face.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that someone like Mark Carney is prepared to go, no, we're not playing this game, and stand up.
Yeah, so, but he has proven that he is prepared to stand up to Donald Trump, hasn't he? But in this scenario, in these negotiations, these trade negotiations, there will inevitably have to be a winner and a loser, won't there?
Yeah, I mean, well, you'd think so. But, I mean, if Carney plays his cards right, then, as you say, he will try and manipulate the situation so Trump emerges thinking that he's a winner, and Trump is very happy to spin deals and spin certain situations so that he always looks like he's won, even if it's clear to everybody else who's been following the situation that he has not got the upper hand. So I think if Carney really, in terms of future trade talks, handles his language very well and gives Trump something, even if it's not everything that he's been asking for, just to kind of give Trump a small win, then it might end up in his favour after all.
And also Trump likes to be seen as being benevolent as well, doesn't he? You know, he likes to be able to say, you know, I've spoken to this guy and I've decided we'll do this, so, you know, my friends again and all of this. He likes to be able to play that part.
But Carney has been quite combative in his language, saying Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar to protect Canadian workers, farmers and families and businesses. He's not going away without a fight, I think we can safely say. So one to watch and keep an eye on that Canadian-American relationship. Now, there's been a welcome break from the extreme weather this week after a series of heat waves and devastating wildfires across the UK. Nearly 19,000 hectares of land have burned in England and Wales, setting a record for this point in the year. But as the risk grows, the resources to tackle the blazes are reducing, as our data and forensics correspondent Tom Cheshire explains.
The UK has been burning this summer, with wildfires in every corner of the country. Our analysis shows it is unprecedented. Let's start with the whole of the UK. We've mapped all the wildfires this year. This is based on satellite data that detects fires from space by sensing their heat. We've combined that with other satellite imagery and other sources. You can see all of them across here. Yellow and this pink, that is intense. It's obviously not exactly to scale. It shows the intensity, the size of those fires. Now, Sky's Data and Forensics Unit has analysed all of that and found that more than 18,800 hectares of land have burned across England and Wales so far, an area over 4 times the size of Oxford. That is a record for this point in a year. Now, 6 of the 10 largest fires this year have been in Wales. Let's go a bit further in here. This is actually South Wales. I want to look at 2 of the big fires here, one in Llangynnyd Reservoir, the other in Blaenavon. Those have been really big fires. You can see them on the screens. But these are the bigger ones. They have been starting all over. 19 separate incidents have been verified by Sky News in the last 30 days, just in this area of South Wales. So lots of fires there, some really big ones. But when it comes to impact, it's not just about numbers or size, it's also about proximity. This blaze in Stourbridge wasn't the biggest, but it was right next to a residential neighbourhood. 38 houses were affected by the fires. 19 were destroyed. We've mapped them. 7 homes were on one street. At 12:48, the day the fire broke out on the 13th of August, this satellite image was taken. The fire was called in just around an hour later. And this is the same area pictured just 1 day later. The black on the screen shows the burnt area of ground, and that backs onto those houses, some of which were the ones destroyed. Away from homes, we can talk about the impact on infrastructure. There's a fire in the New Forest. It was pretty big, but more important is what it meant for this road, a major route for tourists to the Southwest National Highways. That was closed by National Highways in mid-August. So those are some of the specific impacts. Let's go back to the big picture. Are things getting worse? Well, this shows the average amount of land burned each year from 2018 to 2024 in England and Wales again. And this is 2025 in comparison, a towering inferno next to it. And let's have a look at 2026. We started this year a bit slower, but now, same point in the year, more land has been burned. And importantly, there have only been half as many fires this year as the year before. But because of the bone-dry conditions, they're doing a lot more damage, burning up a lot more land. There's another way of looking at this same issue too. Remember that point about having fewer fires, there being more damage? Well, what we've seen over the recent years is actually there's a smaller number of all fires from, say, 2018. But when we compare that to large fires, we can see, look, this is really going up. They are doing a lot more damage, burning up a lot more area than they have in the past. So a devastating summer, but one we will probably need to prepare for again. Craig Hope, National Resilience Wildfire Capability Advisor, warned that the UK, if we don't get this right now, we will lose lots more property and we will start to lose lives.
So, Duncan, undeniable that the risk is growing, but are the resources there to deal with it?
There's a really interesting piece on the Sky News website, and it quotes Steve Wright, who's the top man of the Fire Brigades Union, the FBU, and he makes some really interesting points. He talks about over the last 15 years that we've seen fire stations close, and certainly if you drive around parts of the UK, I mean, you know, London and the South East, where I hang my hat, there are buildings that used to be fire stations, and now they're no longer there. And I remember various campaigns about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, particularly in London, trying to keep fire stations open. And we were told by the politicians at the time it's OK because, you know, the needs of the communities have all changed, etc. Outside of London and the South East and across the UK, we are seeing resources, or we have seen resources being reduced. The piece on the Sky website says in the last year or so, more funding has been put in. But there's a bit of a problem here because, you know, we have less fire engines than we've had before, and we have less firefighters. And people don't want to be firefighters anymore. I mean, there's a bit of a, I wouldn't say there's a recruitment crisis, but certainly there's an issue with trying to get people into the fire service to replace those who have retired. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And I think certainly the wildfires that we saw last year, and also we've experienced this year as well, particularly in the UK, places like Stourbridge and elsewhere. I mean, my part of the world in Hampshire, there was a wildfire just off the A31 on by ringwood, the damage to the road and stuff like that. We're going to have to face the reality that if this does continue, you know, we need the firefighters and we need the right kit in place to be able to deal with stuff.
Yeah, and all the indications are that it will continue and will be more severe, would only get worse with, you know, nearly 19,000 hectares burnt this year in England and Wales. It's a huge problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Those graphs were really bleak. To see the way that wildfires have just soared in number over the last, well, this year and last year is horrifying. I mean, we've already got loads of concerns about how our houses are just going to cope with heat waves and, you know, there's droughts. We're worried about water supply. And now to be thinking that we've got wildfires really encroaching on built-up areas. Yeah. We've got worries about food supply because there will be farming land that's deeply damaged. I mean, there are so many concerns that stem from our changing climate that I can't help feeling that when we talk about addressing a lot of these issues, obviously we must do something to really build up the fire brigade service. But also we must do something about addressing climate change, because at this point, I mean, we've had so many warning signs, so many times have we been really struggling with our changing environment that, you know, how many times is it going to take for us to really implement serious change?
Yeah, no, certainly do need that wake-up call. And when we've seen for the first time people's homes, residential areas, homes burnt to the ground, it really was quite shocking. We are going to take a break, but coming up next, we'll take a first look at what's making the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. So do stay with us.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today.
Congratulations, this is a huge moment.
But what happens now?
Time now to see what's making the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers for you. And on the front of the Sunday Times, they say Andy Burnham is to announce plans to let regional mayors overrule councils that reject large-scale planning applications. Sunday Telegraph leading with claims an Iranian-linked cyber attack shut down a British power plant for 4 days. On the front page of the Mirror, Trent Alexander-Arnold speaking out about the online abuse he received after leaving Liverpool for Real Madrid last summer. The front page of the Daily Mail says that 4% of Britons believe Prince William should wait for Harry to make the first move in rebuilding their relationship, according to a poll conducted for the newspaper. The Sun leading with today's fatal crash involving 2 police officers and speculation surrounding the future of the Duchess of Sussex in terms of her acting career. And the Daily Star has an elated doppelganger of Prince Harry on their cover. Apparently, since the news of Prince Harry's return, Reese Whittock has seen a spike in bookings. We've just given him a little bit more publicity, haven't we?
I'm wondering, what do you book him for?
I don't know,
Come
parties.
to my party?
Yeah.
Impersonators for, yeah, I guess. Parties, corporate parties, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll get in touch. Let's start with the Telegraph, though, and this story that's the first that we're seeing of its nature. Iranian hackers shut UK power plant in an unprecedented cyber attack, which disabled facilities for up to 4 days. Duncan.
Yeah, it's a shocking story, but I don't think it's a massive surprise. If you listen to any interviews of people who used to be head of various security services in this country, they will tell you within what they're allowed to share with the British public that for years, particularly in the last couple of years, since we've had the conflict with Russia and Ukraine and whatnot, and particularly our relationship with China and indeed other, some might call them rogue states, cyber attacks almost happen on a daily basis against the United Kingdom for all kinds of bits of infrastructure. And this is where we are in the 21st century. It's a form of warfare. It's not bombs, it's not missiles, it's not bullets. It's actually hacking in and causing actually some quite significant interruptions and potentially damage to all kinds of things that we need. So if you look at this piece in the Telegraph, they talk about how Iranian hackers, they believe, shut down a UK power plant. They also talk about the potential for hackers to hack into water supply systems, power networks, etc., etc. I think it's very clear we're living in a time now where we have people who want to harm this country because maybe we supported, for example, I mentioned Russia, Ukraine, we supported Russia in the war against, we supported Ukraine in the war against Russia. So consequently, Russia want to punish the United Kingdom, and they do that by hacking. And there are also other countries, you've got Russia, you've got Iran here, we know about China, we know about North Korea. This stuff is not going to go away. I think the big question that needs to be answered is, are our systems robust enough to be able to sustain continued hacking?
Yeah. British officials haven't been drawn on which power plant that was affected, but it's understood that the facility was disabled for 4 days, as we say, and it was relatively small, and the outage had no impact on the UK's wider power infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds sort of quite low-key as cyber attacks go, but what I thought was really interesting from this story was that the incident took place at the same time as a series of attacks on a US water infrastructure system last month. So to me, that looks like Iran is putting the UK in the same boat as the US, which is a dangerous place to be, especially when we have made such an effort not to go to war with Iran, unlike the States. You know, Keir Starmer really bent over backwards to make that clear, that we were not part of that conflict. And yet here we are being attacked at exactly the same time.
Yeah. Let's move to the Mirror front page and picture, entirely the front page, that Trent Alexander-Arnold speaking about the online abuse that he's received following his move from Liverpool to Real Madrid. But it's not a story that we're unaccustomed to regarding footballers, is it?
No, sadly not. And you're absolutely right. It does seem every couple of months we get a story like this, sadly, on the front page of the newspapers, and it tends to be a player who might be from a different country or different skin colour or whatever, and you have football fans, for whatever reason, who don't know where the line is. It's not about banter, it is vile, racist abuse. And this happens time and time again, and we often hear the phrase that something should be done about it. Well, nothing ever does seem to get done about it. I don't know what you can do. I'm a big believer in freedom of speech. However, it is very clear here that this is not freedom of speech. This is vile, racist abuse that's being used against a guy. And what do you do about it? And it gets you into the whole area about, if you're on social media, do people need to have proper IDs so you know who they are? Because I guarantee most of the people behind this abuse, it's not their real names. They're hiding behind some ridiculous name like Warrior 1234, and a picture of a shield or something. It tends to be these people. But it's not acceptable, and my heart goes out to Trent and indeed anyone else who's in receipt of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the disheartening thing is his sort of quiet resignation, because he says, this abuse online is a sad part of life. Well, it shouldn't be a part of life.
Absolutely. I mean, just because you're in the public eye doesn't mean that you should in any way be abused like this. I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying about, it raises serious questions about social media regulation, but we've also seen fans in stadiums really abusing certain players just while they're on the pitch, which is completely unacceptable. I really don't know what they can possibly do about it.
But what's interesting, when that happens, they can be called out and they know who they are because there's CCTV cameras in the stadium or in the around the pitch, whatever, and those people can be banned from the club for life or suspended for a certain amount of time or whatever. And that's right and proper. What we can't do with social media, because it's so easy for someone just to set up a fake account and, we don't know who they are. The flip side of that, though, is I find myself being a little bit concerned because, in terms of we went down the route of having, I don't know, people have to have their own IDs or whatever so you know who they are on social media, that could be abused in the future by technology companies. So it's really difficult. I just think it's a really sad reflection of humanity that this is still happening. And we talk about these stories all the time and it's been going on for years.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not really an online problem. It's a societal problem, isn't it, really? Because these are individuals that are using technology, but it starts in society.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, I think, because social media is such the wild west at the moment, people get emboldened when they're online. They think they can say whatever they like. And then when they notice there are no repercussions there, they can take it into the real world. And it really snowballs from there. I do think that something needs to be done about social media, but, I mean, where do you begin when you're trying to address societal issues like the fact that people even think this kind of abuse is acceptable? I don't know. It's too much of a huge problem. Something needs to happen, but it's one of those things that we debate quite frequently in politics. Yeah. And I've never heard of a concrete answer that sounds to me like it's feasible to do.
No.
No, and I mean, it's prevalent in a lot of places, but it does seem to be particularly prevalent in the football world.
Yeah.
And I think as someone who, I'll put my hand up, I'm not a football expert or a fan. I've been to a few games for various clubs over the years. I think there is a mindset amongst some supporters of what they would class as just as banter. Or it's not an excuse, but I'm saying there are people who have got that mindset. But that's not good enough. They don't know where the line is. And they get so het up about their team losing or a player moving from their club or whatever. They think in the world of football it's all right to go after them and use some remarkably foul language. And I don't know if it's just a football problem, but if you go back over the last couple of years, you will find plenty of players who have endured this.
Yes, yeah. I guess you need to go back to basics and start very early years in the classrooms because it is, as I say, a societal problem. It is. Let's move to the Sunday Times. And this story regarding Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister. Apparently, we read he will hand mayors the power to overrule councils and force through plans to build houses, tower blocks and skyscrapers. How so, Kate?
Yeah, well, I think this is very interesting because this is all part of Burnham's devolution push, isn't it? He's always been on the side of the mayors. I mean, just a couple of months ago, he was
one.
Exactly, and he loved it. So, you know, it makes sense that he would want to continue with his push to really hand power or move power out of Westminster as he sees it. But I think it's interesting that he wants to allow them to overrule councils, because that really creates some kind of friction in certain regions. You know, he's often made a real point of being, what does he call it? The politics of the person, you know, of community, really finding somewhere a compromise.
Pragmatism.
Exactly, that's exactly it. So I think it's interesting that he's already decided that sometimes you just have to pick a fight and let's give someone greater powers, which is not what he has been saying so far.
Yeah, his pragmatism, though, in one of the other papers, might reach to him being willing to build on greenbelts, which is not going to please very many people.
It's not a vote winner, is it? Andy Burnham's given an interview to the Sunday Times, which is why we're hearing all about this on the front page. I think there are a number of things around this, and as Kate rightly says, you know, one of his big things is about devolution. It's going to solve all of the country's problems, devolution. It seems to me that we're putting a lot of responsibility in the hands of mayors. And I'm not convinced yet, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, that devolution is the answer. And, you know, some of these mayors, I don't know enough about them. They're going to have an awful lot of power. Do we have the quality of local politicians who can fulfil these jobs as mayors of a given region or whatever and do them remarkably well? That's one thing. The other thing around this is, of course, Labour had a pledge to build, was it 1.5 million homes, I think, in this Parliament? And it looks like that's not going to be achieved. So by giving mayors the powers to basically block opposition to development somewhere, it might speed up the process of getting more homes built. The other thing that I always find this, and it's when I read the word NIMBY, not in my backyard, I find myself thinking it's very easy to have a pop at NIMBYs, OK? However, I think there are always some genuine NIMBY concerns, because in my part of the world, in West Sussex, loads of homes are being built, and that's a great thing, right? We need homes to be built for people, but it doesn't go hand in hand with increased infrastructure. So you're not having more GP surgeries built, you're not having the sewage system updated, you're not having more school places being created. So some of this so-called NIMBYism comes from a place of, look, our roads are already congested. If you build 400 more homes just over there, the roads are going to be even more congested. It's hard enough to get a doctor's appointment at the moment. Build 400 more homes. Unless you create more GPs in this area, it's going to be even harder. So sometimes I think it's too easy just to dismiss NIMBYs. I think there are some genuine concerns. OK, Duncan standing up for NIMBYs. They have a point. We get it. I'll take that. I'll take that on board. OK, we are going to take a break. The sport's coming up. An early contender for goal of the season in Scotland.
In the last 5 years, more than 13,000 farmers have left agriculture in the UK.
Is it going to be viable for the future?
There are farmers from across the country that have brought Whitehall to an absolute standstill.
We have to protect our farmers because they produce the food that we eat.
You've got to keep hope, because one day it's going to be OK.
I'm Dan Whitehead, Sky News' West of England and Wales correspondent.
It's scary what's happening in the country. It's the illegal migrants that we don't want here.
How difficult is this to police tonight? Off the scale. Having the police speak to us so starkly right in the middle of the riot showed just how serious the situation was.
The water on board the barge contaminated with Legionella bacteria, an outbreak that was first revealed by Sky News.
There have been questions for months over whether the support offered to asylum seekers on the bivvy is sufficient.
A cruel place to put human beings.
From busy cities to rural communities, we spend every day reporting on how big decisions impact real people.
The last smoke and steam rises into the sky above Blast Furnace 4.
It just seems madness.
Lunchtime, and as the deliveries get busy, so do immigration.
When they make a crackdown like this, the messages on the WhatsApp group for the delivery drivers goes wild, and they all go to ground for a few hours.
They're helping terrified victims.
You've been a victim of a very common type of online crime known as sextortion.
We're making things better for people.
Stonehenge became the latest victim of Just Stop Oil.
Now I can say I've been to the orange Stonehenge.
Sky News, get the full story first, free, wherever you get your news.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to. Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Richard Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Hear that whistle and that crunch? We know that they're coming from the south of the city where there's a column of Russian armoury.
I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides and it's moving this way.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us?
Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office.
Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
Time now to get all the very latest sports news with Mark.
Bid has been tabled by Manchester City for Dimitar Berbatov in the last few minutes.
We've made an offer. I think it's agreed between ourselves and Tottenham, and now really it's about the Birmingham decision, I think.
City come in and you're thinking, goodness me, this is another statement from them.
When did you become aware that Manchester City had entered the race?
On the way to the Carrington, then I find out that City are coming in with the offer.
Are you on the phone to Robbie Keane saying, is he signing or not?
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you fear at one stage that he would go to Manchester City?
No, I didn't fear it.
If City had snatched that one right at the death, the noisy neighbours would have been absolutely the noisiest ever.
The question now is, which hospital is he going to have his medical? Is it Manchester City's hospital or Manchester United?
My agent is telling me, in the car, someone called him. He's in the front seat. Sir Alex is next to him. I'm in the back seat. So someone is calling him and telling him that. And I'm like thinking to myself, so how do I react here? What do I say? What is Alex going to say? And I'm like, Emil, no. You know where we're going. We know what we came for. Just one club here. We'll go for United.
If he sort of turned at the last minute and gone to Man City, then it probably wasn't the right player for us anyway. I was confident that he wouldn't go there in the end.
I do think they were trying to get under United's skin. I think it was kind of like, we'll show you. We can certainly challenge you money-wise now. Any player United would have gone for that day, that summer, City probably would have thrown their hat in the ring as well.
Why were you so set on United?
It was like the badge. It was like the history. It was like the players. It was like the legends. It was like the trophies, the manager, the fans, the stadium, the aura.
You definitely joining Man United tonight?
We go to Old Trafford where the offices were. I go in, I see the whole table full of documents ready to be signed, if needed to be signed, but prepared just in case. Then I go to a different room with David Gill, with Sir Alex, my agent, the lawyers. It was up and down through the corridors to the offices, people talking on the phone. Daniel Levy calling on one line and say, come back right now, we're not letting you go.
It can get frantic, and sitting here calmly, I wouldn't like to sort of give you the impression that you don't have to lose your rag occasionally, you don't have to sort of push things or get on with your lawyers or, make certain phone calls. But I think ultimately, if you're experienced in terms of what's required, you can get it done.
My agent is trying to convince him, no, we already had a deal. Then I took the phone and like, Daniel, please, we had a deal, I'm staying here, bam. Then he calls again, a bit more calm down. Okay, maybe we can work something out. Maybe the price was going up at times as well, trying to negotiate it more time. And I just thinking to myself, it's not going to happen.
Daniel, I think, didn't do himself any favours because he needed a replacement, and so he left it to the last minute. And so Fraser Campbell, who was going on loan to Wigan, Alex had to ring him.
There's me, my dad, Steve Bruce in a little quiet room in the hotel. Everything is agreed. We've had the initial contacts with the club, Man United, sending the fax, signed our bit of the fax, faxed it back to them. The last one that we needed just wasn't coming, so we sat just waiting and waiting. Obviously, Steve's getting a bit agitated. My phone rings, but it's a withheld number. I answer, hello, young Campbell. I'm thinking, who's this? It's the boss, Sir Alex. I was like, oh, all right. So I'm sat there like, Sir Alex is ringing.
The weather now.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
Well, it's looking mainly fine into next week and less hot than recently, but showery and possibly thundery rain looks set to spread from the south on Tuesday. There'll be a mainly calm, dry and clear start tomorrow, but it will be quite chilly with the odd fog patch likely in the countryside. Exposed coastal areas may see the odd light shower too, especially in the northwest. Most places will stay dry with plenty of sunshine tomorrow morning, but northern and western Scotland will be quite cloudy, with the chance of further light showers around exposed coasts. Temperatures will be mostly like today's, but generally light winds mean it'll feel quite warm in the sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Coming up, the latest from Middlesbrough as 7 people, including 2 police officers, are killed in a fatal crash.